So here's the Wargaming Tactica question. Do you want to go first turn or second turn? Now, the question with this, of course, really depends on the type of wargaming system that you're playing. Mission secondary, and what I mean by that is often playing historicals, Chain of Command, World War II, fantastic rule set. The first or second player goes depending on the mission. Literally, you're trying to recreate history. Is it a combat patrol? Is it a direct assault? Is it attacker versus defender? So it's kind of based on the historical mission that we're looking to recreate. We know who's going first turn. We know who's going second turn. We know the terrain. We know certain aspects of the equipment. But taking a step back from historical wargaming, often what we'll see in tabletop wargaming, sci-fi wargaming, yes, there might be an attacker versus defender mission, but a lot of missions are set up the table, roll for sides, deploy, and then see who gets to go first. Now, if this is a you go, I go system, and I'm going to simplify things a little bit, but essentially the wargaming systems out there are you go, I go, or interrupt/alternating systems. And let's look at a few examples. A you go, I go system is I set up all my toys, you set up all your toys, we roll off to see who goes first. I go first. What that means is, depending on the phases of the game, moving, shooting, assault, magic phase, whatever it's going to be, you kind of sit there and you take it. You're not allowed to move your miniatures. There might be some leadership tests, or you might be able to pop off a couple of powers, but you sit there while I do my thing. And then when it's my turn, I sit there and do your thing. And there might be some saves and ways to take wounds or structure points. This is a simplified wargaming system from the 80s. This is the way to make things easy to understand. I don't really like you go, I go systems. And this is coming from someone that enjoys Warhammer 40,000. I don't like you go, I go because it's ripe for abuse based on the rule set. And we see this with the Alpha Strike. The Alpha Strike is where literally I pour all my points, battle value, squadron points, power points, whatever we want to call it, into building something that can hit so hard, so fast turn one. I don't even care what the mission is. I'm going to set up turn one. I'm going to go first. It's a you go, I go. You sit there, I blow half your army off the table. Well, the game's over before it even started. Alternating systems. Alternating systems are where there's an interrupt, meaning you might get to go first, I might get to go first, or often we'll roll off to see first turn. Then there's a way to kind of seize initiative or activate units, or maybe you activate one unit, then I activate a unit. Or we see this where we roll a number of dice and you can activate 1, 2, 3, or 4 units. You get to pick different things. Chain of Command very much uses an alternating system in that a player will go first. So I'm going first. And on a side note, I should say, to understand this system and how it works for the framework of this Tactica, I have uploaded to my channel a Chain of Command playlist looking at some of the rules. At the start of the game, start of my turn, I roll a d6 for every command point I have. And the command point represents literally that chain of command. So it might be 3, 4, or 5. I roll those. Depending on what I get, 3 might be a section of infantry for 3s. A 5 gets me a chain of command point to later utilize for something. 6 doesn't count, but if I get 3 6s, I get to take another turn, a double run. A 1 would allow me to operate and activate a heavy support like a tank or a machine gun. So I can have multiple units on the table, but I'm not always going to get to activate all of them in the turn that I want. After I've activated my units, my opponent goes. Now, during that activation, even when I'm activating my units, depending on their command dice, they can ambush, they can skirmish, they can interrupt. It's a very, very elegant system where, while we do have it's my turn and your turn, a lot of stuff can happen to change the flow. You're not just sitting there. It's a very dynamic system. You're not just sitting there eating dice for 40 minutes and taking your toys off the table. The point to look at with a you go versus I go system is it leaves you vulnerable, but there is also a strength. There is also a strength in such a binary system, and this leads into the question of, do I want first turn or not? If we're playing a mission that has mission objectives. And mission objectives might just be do this in a number of turns, or it might be at the end of the game, have this win condition. That going last, that last licks is huge because you are guaranteed last turn, which for the most part your opponent just sits there, and you can make a big, big difference. I made, going back a number of years, for those of you who've been following my channel for a while, Way of Sam Han. Looking at that, the evolution of that channel and playing my Samhan Eldar, jet bikes, Vipers, grav tanks, fast-moving aspects. There's always room for fire dragons, still is. You know, the one thing that we can count on as Eldar players in any edition of 40K is like fire dragons will at least be somewhat semi-useful. I made a whole army, Tactica, based on going last, being able to evade you first turn, being able to not be on the table, having such hyper mobility, and then getting that last turn to contest objectives, to get battle points, victory points at the time, to generally just be a real pain. Going last, having that last turn is huge, potentially. Potentially, you have to survive the Alpha Strike in a Hugo I Go system. In an interrupt system, it's not, it helps, but it's not as vital as you think. So the two questions, the two Tactica, and again, you're going to have to really look at your gaming system. Do you want to go first? Do you want to go second? First turn, you can deliver the Alpha Strike. If you're not going first turn, you need to protect yourself from the Alpha Strike. And going second, you get that last lick. You get that last chance to win the mission before the game ends. If you're not going last, that last turn, you have to really position yourself. You have to survive for yourself to make that possible.